Welcome to Women in Public Safety Podcast, where real life meets raw truth. I'm your host, Harriet Westmore. I'm a state parole officer dedicated to unraveling human complexities through true life cases, what we will call case chronicles. Join me weekly as we explore gripping narratives from the front lines of law enforcement and social services, from triumph to despair. We will uncover human resilience, vulnerability, and lastly, of course, justice. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media for the latest episodes and to join in the movement for change. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Harriet Westmore with the Women in Public Safety Podcast. This is the podcast where we discuss challenges and triumphs for women who work in the public service fields such as law enforcement, corrections, medical, healthcare, paramedics, firefighters, and the like type industries. I hope everybody's doing well for Saturday. Today's podcast, I'm going to talk a case chronicle. And this is my own personal case that I'm dealing with. So before I start, I want everybody on YouTube to hit that like, share, and subscribe. I want to get the algorithm going. I want to get the conversation going in talking about these type of topics for women who are on the front lines in serving the public or their community, whichever the case may be. All right, so I guess my case is titled When Love Goes Wrong. It's more like a soap opera slash case offender when you're dealing with those who are out of the criminal justice system and in trying to re-entry into the community and are still on probation or parole. It always says, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. And I'm sure those who work in social services, healthcare, law enforcement, when you are, or probation or parole, you have to deal with caseloads where there are different facets of personal case scenarios, such as you're drawn into the drama, whether it's family members, family brothers against sisters, sisters against mothers, against husbands, against wives, boyfriends against girlfriends, you name it. It is always some kind of drama. Let me tell you about my current situation of one of my offenders. See, when you are in a relationship, a word to the wise, and if you're having conflict with your partner, your current partner in that relationship, do not go back to your ex-boyfriend or girlfriend and talk about your current relationship. Don't do that, because all it does is create trouble. Hence why my offender has some issues. Okay, my current offender is dating his current girlfriend. Apparently they two had some arguments or disagreements or whatever. I don't really know, and don't really care. So what does the girlfriend do? Girlfriend goes and crying and bawls to her ex-boyfriend. They're still friends, and she pretty much discussed what happened between her and my offender. Well, lo and behold, my offender found out, and what does he do? He goes over to the ex-boyfriend's house and confronts the boyfriend. Okay, calling him names, telling him to stay out of their business, blah, 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 sending threatening messages via phone, calling him, leaving voicemail. He's challenging this guy to come out and, fight. And in the meantime, the ex-boyfriend calls the police on my offender. So my offender is subsequently arrested for aggravated menacing. This wasn't a one-time thing, because there were several instances where she, I guess, run her mouth ex-boyfriend about her current relationship with my offender. I think this has been going on for a little bit, and so I guess I'm not making any excuses at all. I'm just saying I think my offender just snapped, and he threatens you want to try to handle it with the ex-boyfriend. So my offender gets arrested, which is also a violation of his terms of being on parole or probation, because he has caught another charge. Okay. But who in the meantime, while he's arrested and in jail, we were having issues and I just talked to my ex-boyfriend. We still were friends. Of course, the girlfriend. It was okay for her to run in and run her mouth to the ex-boyfriend. And but when my offender get arrested and get put in jail, now the script is now flipped. And now oh, I love him and all this. You know how many times we hear this all the time. And so people, stop running your mouth to other people, especially those who are formerly involved in prior relationships, because that will get you in trouble. So, of course, I was not in any rush to get him out of jail, or I couldn't do it anyway because he had a pending charge. So I put what we call a hold on him, which means that our agency is requesting the county jail to hold him, even if he posts his bond, even if the judge sets bond on the individual, he will not get out of jail because we have a hold on him. And the reason why I put a hold on him because I have to do my due diligence and do an investigation, further investigation. I'm supervising this offender on behalf of another state. So he really, I'm like his babysitter on behalf of another state. So his original charge came from out of another state. He just happens to be in my state and living in my state. So we're doing a courtesy supervision on behalf of the original state who has this case. So I have to consult with the other state and what do you want us to do? This is what happened. I sent over the circumstances of what was going on. He still has a pending court case. So please, what do you want us to do once this case is resolved? So they replied, and it was almost like a month. He sat there in limbo, and every other day the girlfriend is calling. The girlfriend is calling and calling and calling. See, it always happens that way. Whenever there's a situation, a domestic situation, whether it's verbal, whether it's physical, police is called right there on the scene. Everybody is hot, but then the next day, the parties involved, one of the parties involved is either in jail. The other party calls and see what's going on. I didn't really want this to happen. I was just mad and I'm the type of person, be careful who you have, what type of relationship you're in. Because if that person, is, you get involved in this person and you guys are arguing, and you might want to kind of leave that person alone. And if you know your temperament, and especially when you're on paper, when you were still under supervision, you might want to just leave that person alone and get out of that situation. So my guy has been sitting there in limbo, and after I consulted with the parties involved, not her, because I really wanted to, hear the side of the complainant, which was the ex-boyfriend who called the police and whose this case is against, because my offender threatened and sending all types of messages and text messages to this individual. So it was decided that the courts would issue a no contact order, meaning that he cannot have any type of contact with this ex-boyfriend. He's still on probation and he has to come, he's still going to report. It hasn't been actually, so there still are different types of, keep going back for hearings and pre-trials and things. On my end, I'm going to increase contact. And I also suspect that there are substance abuse issues going on. And so he will be increased reporting and increase, I'll order him in to do an assessment, or if whatever what is recommended based on the assessment, he will have to follow to a T. And that is an agreed upon with his original state of where he came from. That is what they are asking us to do. But these kind of cases, they're aggravating because now you as a parole officer or probation or whatever are getting pulled into drama that was really unnecessary. And I'm telling you, people will pull you in and suck you in, but as a professional, you have to stand your ground and just stand on business and just tell them, look. And I tell them, I said, look, I'm not a part of you. Both of you guys needed to stay away from each other. And I can put a no contact with that on my offender to stay away from that person, that they're having a conflict with. Because all you're doing is getting, okay, you guys are hunky dory and back in love or whatever. Now, tomorrow, it's going to be back the same thing. And then guess what? Guess who's calling? Police is called. The police is called. They're getting involved. You get rearrested. Next thing you know, the girl is, or the guy is calling you as the professional. I didn't want this to happen. Well, you shouldn't have. Don't call the police. If there is a real issue in terms of physical and abuse, absolutely, you need to follow up on that. And as a female to female, you need to get out of that situation. But don't keep using the system, to get back at someone, back at your partner because you're mad at them. But see, when it does happen, then you want to flip the script and say, I didn't really want him to go to jail. I just wanted him to leave me alone, blah, blah, blah. If you and those who are on paper, if you're dealing with that type of situation, you need to just cut your losses and get out. I don't care how much they call you and want, try to reconcile. Get out of that situation, because all it's doing is just adding more to what you already have. And everybody knows when you're on supervision, you have to walk a fine line. You got to walk the walk. You cannot put yourself in a situation where you may be caught up and have new charges, because then you're going to go back to prison. So this is a case of when love goes wrong, which is almost all the time. Every other day, it's always well, he's not doing this, I'm calling your PO. And a lot of them call because of spite, or they're mad. And especially when the offender does move on. I'm gonna flip this. If the offender does move on and leave the old girlfriend alone, and now he's with another person, the old girlfriend will call the PO. Well, I'm gonna tell you what he's been doing. He's been doing this, but you wasn't saying that while he was with you. It was fine as long as he was with you. Now that they have moved on or moved to another relationship, or is seeing you and this other relationship and this other relationship, all these other people behind your back. Now you want to be vindictive, but you weren't being vindictive when he was, when you thought you were exclusive to that one person. We get all kinds of stories. It's funny, it's irritating, and it's like you can't make this stuff up. So I want to hear your feedback. Those who can relate, and what wobbles that you as a professional had to deal with between relationships. I take issues of domestic violence very, very seriously. If an offender that I'm supervising is engaging in domestic violence behavior, oh, I'm nailing him to the wall. I don't care if it's verbal abuse. I'm gonna nail you to the wall. Whether it's well, you can't prove. You got to prove that he's, and it could be the other person's who started it. But the problem is they're not the ones that's on supervision, which is why I always tell my offenders, when you want to live with this certain your girlfriend, you better be careful, because one phone call, one argument can lead to something else. And then you're the one that's going to have to pay the consequences, whether you started it or not, because you're the one that's on supervision. So I want to hear your thoughts and feedbacks. Or if you have a story that you want to be portrayed, a case chronicle that wants to be showcased on the Women Public Safety Podcast, you can email me at publicsafetybywomen@gmail.com. But leave your comments below on YouTube, and I want to hear some feedback. I want to hear some stories from you guys. But in the meantime, just know your worth and know when, the old saying, know when to hold them and know when to fold them. Sometimes you just gotta cut. You know what? If this is I'm gonna be keep going through this with this person, I don't need them. I have to keep myself on a straight and narrow. And no relationship is worth you losing your life, losing your privilege, your freedom as far as privilege. If it puts you back into behind bars, then it's not worth it. not worth it. All right. So you guys take care, and I'll talk with you next week. Bye.